Hi, I'm Paul Beddings. Let's talk photos. After the horse was all saddled and bridled up, then we walked out to pasture. So the livestock went out ahead of us. They knew exactly where they needed to go, and we followed in behind. This distance, maybe 2 kilometers. I'm zoomed in here a bit, so distance is a little off. So this walk was about 45 minutes out. I went by myself. Some of the team members I was with stayed behind. And we just walked. I went out to see how he was going to spend his morning. I just hung out with him. I was probably gone with me and him for about 45 minutes. And it was funny because there was this sort of silent understanding of what each of us was doing. He just had to live his life and do his thing. And I was trying to photograph what it looked like to be in his shoes. So yeah, I just followed him, and it was an amazing experience just being out in the middle of nowhere. This was an incredible moment to just walk out, and the air was crisp. It was like maybe 4 or 5 degrees, and with the sort of dry grass crunching under your feet and the wind blowing in the area, across the valley. It was an enjoyable walk. I really had a good time. So eventually we made it. We made it to the livestock, and he sat down with his horse. There's something here that I'd like to refer to, and that is the idea of becoming invisible. The more time you spend with a subject matter, with a person, the more trust they'll give you, and therefore they'll forget that you exist. They'll know you're there. They'll hear your clicking of the shutter. They'll sort of know that you're there. But as you build trust, they become so comfortable with you that people just act normal, right? And that's when sort of there's a beauty that starts to happen in photography. And the interesting thing about this is that applies to horses too, and dogs, as you'll see in some of the other photos. These animals were very aware of me at the beginning. The horse, as you saw in that other image, wouldn't stop staring at me, and here he looks like he's still staring at me a little bit, but he looks definitely quite a bit more comfortable. But it applies too to the shepherd here. He's just sort of sitting there, resting on a rock. His hat's cocked to one side, and he's just looking over his livestock like he does every other morning. And just being there in that moment with him, and just realizing that he's getting comfortable with me, was something that I was aiming for all morning. So here's another vantage point. So this is one, with the livestock, adds a little bit more context, whereas the one previous, you don't see exactly what's going on, but here, you get to see the goats and the sheep, and then you also get to see a little bit more of the landscape. You notice that he's on a bit of a rise there, so he can look over his livestock. And he would sit for maybe 10 minutes in one spot, and then he would shift, go sit somewhere else, and then get up and shift and get somewhere else. You might notice here that the horse now is starting to totally lose interest in me. I think he's aware that I'm there. Maybe his ears are pointing my direction. But the horse is starting to get super comfortable with me. Also, it might have been for me, my benefit or his, but he put the saddle on the horse, but he didn't ride it, which I found interesting the whole time. You can still see that rope there that looks like it's made out of blankets, like torn blankets. And then this dog showed up. So I think my assumption is the dog went out with the livestock, because the dog was there when I arrived in the morning. He was sort of sitting outside. I'm guessing he's a little bit of security, so when someone shows up, he barks. But eventually, I don't know where the dog went, and then he was here. So I think the dog went out with the livestock, and then sort of came up and joined him when he came. But you can see here that even the dog got bored with me. He's not really even looking at me. The horse sort of in this shot has his eyes kind of closed. And everyone is getting really comfortable. And again, these are the moments where becoming invisible, building trust, and being able to take those photos without anybody being worried about how they're standing or what they're doing. It's just capturing moments of real life. And this is like really where the magic begins. And this is where photography really starts to show its colors, because, you know, the more time you spend with someone, better the images get. Obviously, there's a lot more to that. You need to know what you're doing. You need to take advantage of the light. You need to know where you are, who you're shooting, what the story is. But again, more time, more trust, better photos. So this image is from a slightly different vantage point again. Basically what was happening here is I was sitting down in the grass, just taking a moment to take in the landscape, just enjoy the scenery and just hang out with them, you know, just spend more time with them to build some more trust. And I sort of looked over and, you know, the light was getting a little bit better. It's strange in this scenario because usually I go early in the morning to capture that good light. But the morning, because we were in that valley, was the light was quite difficult. And I had quite a bit of a challenge getting a good exposure there. But here we are, sort of day moving on. Let's say this is around 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock. And the clouds are rolling in, and it's sort of giving me more diffuse light, creating less harsh shadows. And so the lights started to get a little bit better. So I was sitting here, wind sort of rustling through the grass, you know, sort of the motion and the rustling of the livestock, you know, the horse sort of looking around. It was a really good moment, and I just sort of turned my camera on the trio, horse, dog, and shepherd, and yeah, this is where this shot comes in. You know, everywhere we went looked like this sort of grass, sort of unfrozen tundra, and I just again thought it was very telling of Mongolia and the moment I was in. So as we come to the end of this video, I'm going to leave you with some music. This is played on the Mongolian cello, which is called a morin kur in Mongolia. There's nothing more telling and more representative of the Mongolian culture, the Mongolian landscape, than the sound of their music. I thought everywhere I was driving, everywhere I went, everywhere I was walking, I had this music in the background, in the back of my head. You know, somehow it represents like the horses and the landscape and the rolling hills and the, you know, and the livestock and the rivers and the roads, and somehow it all, you know, it all fits together in the music, and I just found it incredible to listen to. So this was played for us by one of the families we visited. One of the children was taking music classes and was able to play this for us. Thanks for watching part 2 of my Mongolian photo story. If you missed it, part 1 is at the link below, and be sure to come back next week for another photo story from another part of the world. Please like, share, and subscribe below. Cheers.